Here's something you're never taught in school. Here in the good old US of A, all of your wars have been fake. I don't mean the actual part where they blow up and kill people. I'm talking about the part where we go to war in the first place. And the sad part about it is the people up at the top and their minions, the people that hang out in these think tanks and stuff, they sit around talking about this blatantly, openly, just in your face, strategizing about how they can get us into the next war. And this is actually an old video, but I think it bears being shown again. In fact, it should be shown once every 6 months or so. You should just watch it again, just to remind yourself the level that we're at in this country. So the douchebag you're about to see is from the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. This is an American think tank out of Washington, D.C. It was established in 1985, and it says the mission statement of the Institute, quote, is to advance a balanced and realistic understanding of American interests in the Middle East and to promote the policies that secure them. Not about what's right and wrong over there. It's just whatever secures the American interests over in the Middle East. And we all know what those interests are. It has nothing to do with spreading democracy or freedom or liberty. For more on that, all you have to do is look at the board of advisors and look at some of the names on here. You've got Henry Kissinger, Richard Pearl, Condoleezza Rice, George Shultz, James Woolsey. It's a fun crowd. And it doesn't matter which president you think you're voting for, it's going to change everything. People that have been part of this particular think tank have served senior positions in the administrations of every president this country has had since George H.W. Bush. Some of you may have seen this video, but again, considering the things that are going on right now, it's more relevant now than it's ever been. So we're going to go ahead and watch this, and I just want to say up front, you're going to have to make yourself resist the urge to punch your screen, because you're going to want to punch this guy. And you don't want to do that because you could cut your knuckles, break your monitor and stuff like that. You're going to want to punch him, though. Listen to what he says here.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough. And it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran.
He just said that. You aren't hearing things. He literally just said, crisis initiation's tough, and how's the United States president going to get to war with Iran? Because wars don't just happen. They make the war.
Which leads me to conclude that if, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests.
The traditional way that America gets to war is what's best for the interests. Now, listen to what the traditional way is that America goes to war.
Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor.
False flag.
Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode.
Also a false flag.
Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall we had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode.
Total false flag.
We didn't go to war with Spain until the until the Maine exploded.
Probably also a false flag.
May I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack.
Also a false flag. Do you see a pattern here?
So if, in fact, the Iranians aren't going to compromise, it would be best if somebody else started the war.
Period. If the Iranians don't compromise, it would be best if someone started this war, because that is how America goes to war. You literally have the douchebags who stand up there in these think tanks and say stuff like this. It's not even thinly veiled. There's not even a semantic argument that could be made here that he actually meant something else. He straight up said someone needs to start this war, the way that all of America's other wars have been started, with a false flag.
One can combine other means of pressure with sanctions. I mentioned that explosion on August 17th. We could step up the pressure. I mean, look, people, Iranian submarines periodically go down. Someday one of them might not come up. Who would know why?
Somebody actually laughed in the audience when he said that.
We can do a variety of things if we wish to increase the pressure. I'm not advocating that, but I'm just suggesting that this is not a either-or proposition. It's just sanctions has to succeed or other things.
He's not advocating that. He's just suggesting that you can do some things, which is basically the same as advocating it.
We are in the game of using covert means against the Iranians. We could get nastier at that.
They're in the game of doing that to everybody. This is how America goes to war. You don't know when World War III is going to break out, but when it does, you'll know why.